My electric toothbrush stopped working. I said it loud enough for the dinner table to hear. No one looked up. You're in the basement. You probably overloaded the circuit, my dad muttered without glancing at me, his mouth full of steak he didn't buy with his own money. I swallowed my pride again. The outlet doesn't even work. Well, maybe next time don't use up all the utilities, my brother Aaron said, chuckling as he leaned back in the padded chair, lounging in a soft hoodie I knew I'd bought last Christmas. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from, and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. He got the master bedroom upstairs, 2 walk-in closets, his own bathroom, a flat-screen TV mounted on the wall. Me, a mattress in a basement with exposed pipes, and a portable heater I wasn't allowed to use past 9 p.m. To save electricity, they were charging me $900 a month, utilities not included. You should be grateful we even let you stay here, Dad added, cutting his food aggressively. A lot of fathers wouldn't. Oh, I'm grateful, I said flatly. Very. No one caught the edge in my voice. Or maybe they just didn't care. I pushed my empty plate away. I wasn't invited to eat with them. I made my own cheap food and took it back to the cold basement most nights. But tonight, they'd made enough to make the house smell like rosemary and garlic, and I was starving. Aaron chuckled again and said, maybe you can ask your friends at work to help you fix your toothbrush. Oh, wait. He smiled. They always brought up how I worked at a diner downtown. They thought it was humiliating. She probably can't afford a new one, Aaron muttered under his breath. I can hear you, I said, standing up. Dad finally looked at me. His eyes didn't show concern, only irritation. Then maybe stop acting like a burden and start pulling your weight. I already paid for this month, I said through clenched teeth. We raised you, he snapped. That wasn't free. I didn't reply. There were too many words trapped in my chest. Too much history. Too many years of being the disappointment, the failure, the one who wasn't smart enough, pretty enough, ambitious enough. Aaron was their golden boy. He dropped out of college twice, crashed 2 cars, and didn't pay a dime toward the mortgage. He played video games all night and slept till noon. But I was the problem. I stepped down the stairs and back into my space, if you could even call it that. The air was damp. I flicked the light switch and nothing happened. Again, I sat on the mattress, exhaled hard, and stared at the peeling paint on the concrete wall. They didn't know what I'd done. Not yet. 2 days earlier, I'd signed a deed. A big one. Lakefront property, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, fireplace, modern kitchen, floor-to-ceiling windows. Mine, not inherited, not gifted, not shared. I earned every cent through 2 jobs, small freelance gigs, living like a ghost, skipping everything from takeout to dental appointments to save up. And now, I had something they didn't. But I wasn't going to tell them. Not yet, because the storm was coming. The next morning, I walked upstairs to make a coffee. My coffee machine had been borrowed from the basement by Aaron. He was on the couch scrolling through his phone. Dad was reading the paper. I opened the cabinet and found it empty, not a single mug. You have your own space downstairs. Use it, Aaron said, not even looking up. That coffee machine was mine, I said. Dad scoffed. Everything in this house belongs to the family. You don't just get to claim things because you brought them in. Even if I bought them with my own money? Don't raise your voice. I didn't. I just stepped back, turned around, and walked out. I didn't say where I was going. I didn't say anything at all. I drove straight to the lake house. And for the first time in years, I breathed. The air smelled different out there. Quieter, cleaner. The real estate agent had left the keys in a lockbox. I opened the door and stepped inside barefoot. Hardwood floors. A huge open living room with tall windows. Sunlight poured in. The walls were white, untouched. The air was cool but welcoming. I walked to the deck and stared out at the water. The lake glittered beneath the sky like a secret I finally got to keep. Then, I did something I hadn't done in years. I smiled. I stood on my own property. My name was on the deed. Mine alone. And I knew exactly what I was going to do next. Back at the house that night, Aaron had the audacity to knock on the basement door. I opened it. What? He leaned on the frame. Dad said you didn't pay for utilities this month. I paid rent. He shrugged. You know that doesn't cover everything. You use the washer, the water heater, I used less than both of you combined. I snapped. Still, he smirked. House rules. I tilted my head. You've never paid a dime in your life. He grinned and leaned closer. Because I'm worth it. I wanted to punch him. I didn't. I didn't have to. Because in just a few days, they'd be eating their words. And I'd be drinking champagne on my deck while they sat in the same broken chairs in the same dying house, wondering how the failure turned out to be the one they couldn't keep beneath them anymore. 3 days later, I packed quietly at night. No goodbyes, no explanations. I stuffed my worn hoodie, 2 pairs of jeans, 3 shirts, and a small collection of books into a duffel. That was all I owned that wasn't already broken, borrowed, or mocked. I slipped out of the basement at 1:30 a.m. No one heard me leave. The drive to the lake house was quiet. My phone buzzed a few times, Dad asking where I was. Aaron's name flashed once. I ignored it. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked almost surreal under the stars, like it didn't belong to someone like me, but it did. I stepped inside, dropped my bag, and breathed again. This time, it felt final. The next morning, I got up early and went into town. I bought groceries, real groceries. I grabbed new mugs, towels, even flowers. I'd never owned flowers before. I took pictures of the house, framed the lake in every shot, posted one to social media with the caption, "New Beginnings." And then I waited. It didn't take long. Aaron texted first. "Aaron, new beginnings?" LOL. "Whose boat did you hitch a ride on?" "Me. Mine. Deed says so." 10 seconds. That's how long it took before the phone rang. It was Dad. I let it go to voicemail. Then came the knock. I looked through the peephole. Dad. Aaron. I opened the door slowly. Dad stepped in first, eyes darting around like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. "You moved?" "No," I said calmly. I left. Aaron followed in behind him, scoffing. "Whose house is this?" "Mine." Dad gave a small, humorless laugh. "Okay, be serious." I walked into the kitchen, grabbed the folder, pulled out the deed, and slid it across the counter toward him. "My name's right there. Owner, mortgages in my name. So are the bills. So is everything." Silence. Then Aaron let out a sharp, confused laugh. "You? How?" "I worked." Dad snatched the paper, reading over it again and again. "You can't even afford the electric bill back home. You're telling me." "I'm telling you," I cut in, "that charging your daughter $900 to sleep in a basement while your son took everything for free?" It didn't stop me. Dad's face went pale. "We let you stay." "You profited off me," I snapped. "You didn't help me. You used me." "You're being ungrateful." "No," I said, voice cold. "You're finally seeing I don't need you." Aaron scoffed. "You think you're better than us now? I know I'm freer than you'll ever be." They stood there for a long minute, not saying a word, just processing. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about freedom. They expected me to crawl forever. But I'd learned to walk in silence, and when I ran far. Dad finally tossed the deed back onto the counter. "Don't come crawling back when this goes under." Aaron followed him out, muttering something bitter under his breath. The door closed. I locked it behind them. 2 weeks later, I was sitting on the deck when a real estate agent's number called. I picked up. "We've got interest in the lake house listing." I blinked. "Listing?" She paused. "Your father just contacted our office. He said you gave him power of attorney to list the house for sale." I nearly dropped my phone. "What?" My voice was cold, firm. "Number." "He does not have power of attorney. This is my house. I never signed anything." The agent went quiet. "Okay," I figured. He was pushy. "Sorry, I just wanted to double check." My jaw tightened. "Thank you for calling." I drove to their house that same night, walked through the front door like I still lived there. Dad was watching the game. Aaron was passed out on the couch, half-eaten pizza in his lap. I stood between them, holding the legal document I had printed and notarized earlier that day. "I revoked your access to everything tied to me. That includes my credit, my records, and any attempt to use my name or property for your benefit." Dad looked up. "Excuse me? You tried to list my house." He flinched. "You had no right." "Don't talk to me like, I'm not your tenant. I'm not your punching bag. I'm not your charity case. I'm your daughter." and you treated me like a burden. You were a burden. That did it. I stared at him, dead in the eyes. I made it out because you pushed me down, and I'll never forget that. I turned to leave. He stood up, voice rising. You walk out that door, don't come back. I looked over my shoulder. I didn't plan to. I drove back in silence. And when I got home to my own warm, light-filled house, I realized something strange. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I was free. A week passed. No calls, no texts, nothing. For the first time in my life, the silence felt like peace, until the letter arrived. I opened the envelope and unfolded the paper. Thick, heavy, formal. A law firm's header at the top. Notice of intent to dispute ownership. My hands froze. Below it, Dad's name. He was trying to challenge the lake house ownership. He was claiming I bought it with his help, that he had invested in the down payment, that I used his address and therefore, as a family contribution, he deserved a share. My heart pounded as I read the ridiculous claims, but I didn't panic. I took a breath, and I called someone I'd been quietly working with for months, Monica Reeves, my lawyer. I'd hired her back when I started saving for the house to protect myself from exactly this kind of thing. When I called, she picked up on the first ring. I knew they'd pull something, she said calmly. Send me the letter. I'll handle it. That evening, I sat in the living room, staring at the lake. It shimmered with light as the sun dipped low. Peaceful, untouchable. And yet, there was this fire building inside me again. I thought distance would be enough, that walking away would end the cycle. But my father didn't want closure. He wanted control. He couldn't stand the idea of me owning something he couldn't manipulate, that his disappointment of a daughter had something better than him. And now, he wanted to take it. Not because he needed it, but because he couldn't accept that I'd won. Monica called me back 2 days later. Her tone was sharp, legal, clean. I filed a formal cease and desist. We're protected. You've got full documentation. They have no case. What happens now? I asked. She hesitated. If I were you, I'd cut all contact. This won't stop unless you draw a line. The next morning, I did something I never imagined I would. I wrote a letter, not out of anger, out of finality. Dear Dad, I received your lawyer's letter. You lied in it. You didn't contribute to the house. You didn't help me earn it. You didn't even give me a bed that didn't smell like mold. You made me pay rent to live in your basement. You made me feel like I was worthless. And still, I survived. This house is mine, legally, fully, and you will never take it from me. This is my last communication. I do not wish to hear from you again. I am not your investment. I am not your failure. Mara. I printed it, drove to the city, slipped it into the mailbox of their crumbling brick home, the same one where I once begged to be treated like a person. Then I left without knocking. I didn't need to be heard anymore. I needed to be done. Back at the lake house, I felt it happen. Something cracked. The part of me that once clung to the hope that maybe, just maybe, he'd change. That maybe one day I'd be invited upstairs. That maybe someone would say, "We were wrong about you." But that version of me was gone now. The only person who ever needed to believe in me was me. And she finally did. 2 months passed. I hadn't heard from my father. Not a word from Aaron either. But I wasn't naive. Silence didn't mean peace. Not in families like mine. It meant planning. So I kept moving. Got a second job, this time remote work in design. Freelanced for startups. Slowly furnished the lake house with thrifted charm. A shelf of books. A deep green velvet couch. A wind chime on the back porch. My world wasn't loud anymore. It was mine. Then came the knock. I wasn't expecting anyone. I peered through the peephole. Aaron. I didn't open it at first. He knocked again, louder this time. I finally opened the door, just a crack. What do you want? His eyes darted past me into the house. Dad's in the hospital, he said flatly. My expression didn't change. Is he okay? He had a mild stroke, he said. He'll recover, but he keeps asking for you. I waited. There it was, the angle. Aaron shifted his stance. Look, he's not doing great. You could at least... Let me guess, I cut in. He wants to make peace? Aaron shrugged. You're still his daughter. No, I said quietly. I was the daughter when he needed someone to pay rent. Now I'm just the one who owns what he can't touch? His jaw clenched. You're being cold. I leaned against the door frame. Number I'm being? Done. You think this house makes you better than us? I think earning what I have means more than taking what I didn't deserve. Aaron looked away. He's got bills. We're trying to figure out. Ah, I said. There it is. I crossed my arms. You're not here because he misses me. You're here because the house is paid off and you think I've got savings. He didn't deny it, and that silence, that was my closure. Later that night, I stood on the deck with a glass of tea, staring at the lake. The air was cooler now, leaves beginning to turn. My phone buzzed with a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. I played it. It was Dad. His voice was hoarse. Mara! I don't know if you'll listen to this, but you were never supposed to get that house. I know how that sounds. You scared me, the way you kept going, even when we tried to break you. And I didn't know what to do with that. I was ashamed. Of myself, not you. I wish I'd been a better man. Maybe next life. He hung up. I didn't cry. I didn't feel guilt. I felt free. Because I wasn't angry anymore, I just understood. A week later, I got a call from the hospital. He was stable. Aaron had left town to stay with some cousin. No one else was helping. They asked if I could come sign discharge papers. I did. I didn't say a word to him, just signed, made sure he had a cab, and walked out. Because forgiveness isn't about letting them off the hook. It's about cutting the rope they tied around your neck. The lake house felt different when I came back. Warmer, quieter, like it was proud of me too. I didn't escape. I rebuilt. And now, I was finally living. 6 months later, the house was filled with light. I had music playing low, a pot of stew simmering on the stove, and my dog, yes, I adopted one, snoozing near the fireplace. I was reviewing a new freelance contract when I got a message request on social media. Aaron. Dad passed this morning. I figured you should know. I stared at the message for a full minute. No emotion came. Not shock, not sorrow, not relief, just stillness. Then another message popped up. He left a letter for you, said it was important. I didn't respond. That night, I drove into town, parked by the hospital, and asked at the front desk. A nurse handed me a small envelope with my name in shaky writing. Back at the house, I sat on the deck, candle burning beside me, and opened it. Inside was a single sheet of lined paper. Mara, I never knew how to love you the way you deserved. I mistook your independence for rebellion. I thought your silence meant weakness. I was wrong. You didn't become who you are because of me. You became in spite of me. I'm sorry I wasn't man enough to say it to your face. If you ever forgive me, I hope it's because you realize you were always the strongest one in the house. Dad, I folded the letter slowly, tucked it in a drawer, and I didn't cry. Because he was right. I didn't become this version of myself because of him. I became her because no one else believed I could. A month later, I hosted a small dinner. My coworkers came, a neighbor from down the road, even the old woman who ran the corner thrift shop I always visited. No blood relatives, just people who chose to be kind. People who saw me. As we laughed around the table, someone raised a glass and said, "To Mara, the one who made it out." I smiled. Not because I wanted to prove them wrong, but because I no longer needed to. I finally felt full. Not with revenge, not with rage, but with real peace. One day, while walking near the lake with my dog, a little girl ran up to me. "Is this your house?" she asked, pointing. "Yeah," I said with a smile. "It is." "Wow." My brother said only rich people live by the lake. I crouched down and smiled at her. "Tell your brother sometimes the quiet ones become the loudest winners." She giggled, then ran back to her bike. I looked back at the house, and for the first time in my life, I knew. They buried me in a basement, but I bloomed on a lakeshore.